Well, hey guys, welcome. We're going to kick off in about a minute here. So if you have garbage, you can probably throw it away or just stick it under your seat. But we're going to make sure we clean this place up before we go. All right, hey, we're going to kick this off. My name is Bobby. Well, hello. It is good to have you guys here, and you are here because you have been registered for this thing called AIM. So we're going to talk through what is kind of expected of you as an AIM participant from now on. We're going to call you, we have a word, we call it an aimer. So you are an aimer, not other things that we could say, but we're going to call you AIM students or aimers, and we're going to have you pick up your backpack in just a little bit. But just want to explain what we're going to do. So we're going to go through, we're going to talk through the backpack. We're going to hear just some stories of things you should know. We want you to leave kind of knowing what's expected of you, what is basically AIM all about, and what are some expectations that you have. You guys ready? How many of you have never been on a mission trip before? Raise your hand. Okay, that's about 60% maybe. How many of you have never left the country? Raise your hand. All right, that's good. Well, sometime this might be a great experience for you. Hey, we just have a quick little AIM, kind of a kickoff video. Watch this. Our mission in AIM is this: to mobilize students in short-term missions. We want you guys to go, not just give to missions, but we want you to go because there's something about that step of obedience, and it's an exciting step, and God can use you greatly. Hey, we're going to talk about some trips that are happening this year. How many of you have a cell phone with you? Take out your cell phone. Take out your cell phone. We're going to play a little game of Kahoot to introduce some of our things. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to see this on the screen. So let me say this before anybody does this. Please have church appropriate names. Okay, it's kind of hard to monitor, and please kind of remember we're on a mission trip to represent Christ. This is our first opportunity. So enter. You can either scan that up there, or you can go on Kahoot.it, and we want you to enter. And hopefully the Wi-Fi and the surrounding cell towers can handle all of these things. So please remember, it's not funny if it's inappropriate. All right, we're going to give you just a little bit. There's 25 of about 142 that are here. So please, if you would, we're going to give you about another 30 seconds to register, then we're going to start the game. We're at 40 of about 140, so we might need some time. You can also go to Kahoot.it. Kahoot.it. We're at 56. Brandon with the heart sign. Oh, that's so cute. We're at 60 of about 140. We'll give you just a little bit longer. All right, we're going to give you another 20 seconds. Hey, as we're waiting, we want to just say that we have a very tall model in here. If you are like 6'13" or 6'8" and you're wearing this really cool hat, if you could stand up in here. If you're like 6'8" and you're wearing this hat, oh, thank you. We have a very cool trucker with a trucker hat. AIM, they're available for $10 as you go back to the other place. If you want to pick one of those up, that'd be great. We also have this AIM t-shirt. AIM in Minnesota was established in 1977. So we have kind of an established AIM t-shirt. If you like to pick that up, it's $15 over there. Okay, 10 more seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. How many of you are still trying to get on? Raise your hand. One person. Two people. Three people. Is it not on yet? Okay, raise your hand if you're still trying to get on. 1, 2, 2. Any more? 3, 4. Is it not working? All right, we got to move on here. We're going to move on when we hit 100, so keep going. Oh, we just lost. Okay, there's another one. 2 more. 1 more. Oh, we lost one. All right. We're going to count this down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're sorry. We got to move on. Here we go. Here's the coot. This is our annual quiz. We do it every single year. Here's the quiz. Which is the longest race in North America? Pick red, blue, yellow, or green. Tour of California, Baja 1000, Daytona 500, or the Coca-Cola 600 NASCAR race. Okay, here we go. Correct answer is the Baja 1000. That's one of the trips we're taking. We're going to the Baja of Mexico. Next one. Who is Cash Money? Just so we know. There's Cash Money. All right, here we go. Next one. Question 2. Where are the most human deaths caused by lions? Is it South Africa? Is it Kenya? Is it Tanzania? Or is it Detroit, Michigan? No longer Matt Stafford lives there. All right, here's the answer. Tanzania is the correct answer. We'll see if Cash Money is still in the lead. Oh, she's done. Who's Cade? Who's Cade? Raise your hand, Cade. All right, there's the new leader. Got to catch him. Okay, next question. True or false? You must have the COVID-19 vaccine to fly internationally. True or false? True or false? Okay, it's kind of a trick question. We'll say the correct answer is Kate is still in the lead. The correct answer is depends on where you're going, but overall, the answer is no. You don't have to have the COVID vaccine to travel. Next question. Question 4. What does Milwaukee mean? City by the water, city of hope, the good land, or big obnoxious drunks who wear cheese on their heads? Which is the correct meaning of Milwaukee? The correct answer is the good land in Algonquin. And Sam actually said that, yes. Alice Cooper in Wayne's World said, Milwaukee is an Algonquin term that means good land. All right. If you've never seen Wayne's World, it means you're not 40 or older. All right. Is Cade still in the lead? Cade is still in the lead. Next answer. Next question. Quiz. 5 of 13. Which state has the biggest grizzly bear population? Colorado, Montana, Alaska, or if you watch Lost, Hawaii. All right, the correct answer is Alaska. Yes. Is Cade still in the lead? Cade. Is this Pastor Pam in the lead? Pastor Pam takes the lead. All right, next question. True or false? In the Twin Cities, there are more Assemblies of God believers than Muslim believers. True or false? True or false? One of the trips we're taking is 48 hours going to Minneapolis and St. Paul. And we are going to connect with some new friends that you need to make. Correct answer is false. There are more Muslim believers in Minneapolis, St. Paul area than AG people. That's why we want to go and make some friends. Okay, is Pastor Pam still in the lead? No. I guess we have a new leader. All right, Natty's right there. Next question. Number 7. Which city has the most millionaires per capita? Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Juneau, Alaska, or New York? Just so you know, all of these are in the top 10 in America. What city has the most millionaires per capita? Correct answer is New York. New York has the biggest. We'll see if Natty's still in the lead. Natty increases her over old youth pastor guy, which, okay, all right, here we go. Next question. Outside Pueblo, Mexico is the third largest volcano in the world. True or false? Outside Puebla, one of the trips we're going to, is the third largest volcano in the world. True or false? The answer is false. Here's a stupid bit of trivia. Did you know outside Pueblo, Mexico is the world's smallest volcano? It is 75 feet tall. Ooh. But it actually did erupt one time. So we'll see if the old youth pastor guy, he kind of took it down. Natty is increasing her lead. Wow. All right, here we go. Next question. 9 of 13. General Vicente Guerrero, where the Baja Mexico team is going, was known for discovering penicillin, abolished slavery in Mexico while president, bartered the Louisiana Purchase with the United States, once survived an 80-foot fall from the window of the presidential palace. Generale Vicente Guerrero. What? The correct answer is he did abolish slavery in Mexico for a short time during his presidency. Did you know that, Pam? All right. We'll see what the answer. Does Natty hold the lead? Wow. Unless Natty totally blows it. She may be clean. We'll see. We'll give her a chance here. All right. Here we go. 10 of 13. Which fact is correct about Montana? There are more cattle in the state than people. Has the highest mountain peak in the lower 48 states. Spanish explorers named the state Montañas en el Cielo in 1826. Or I hurt my MCL while skiing at Big Mountain outside Whitefish, Montana. Yes, there are more cattle in Montana. Just so you got it, you know, I did hurt my knee, but I didn't tear an ACL at Big Mountain. Does Natty still hold the lead? Yes, Natty is increasing her lead. Unbelievable. All right, here we go. Next question. In New York City, it's blank to fart in a church. Encouraged, hilarious, a misdemeanor, or incredibly rude. What is the correct answer? To fart in a church in New York City is what? Correct answer is, it is a misdemeanor. You cannot fart in a church in New York City. Natty, did you know that? We're going to see. Show us the result. Oh, Natty's hangs on to the lead. All right, we have 2 questions left. Here we go. Question 12. You must always wash your hands after going to the bathroom. That is considered polite in which country? Puebla, El Salvador, Italy, or Tanzania? You must always wash your hands after going to the bathroom. This is considered polite in which country? You have to know the context here a little bit. In Italy. All right, someone raise your hand and tell me who said that. Yes. Oh, I said it, but who said that? Who's famous for saying that? Michael Scott. You're right, correct. All right, next question. It's actually polite in every country. Natty, oh my word. Unsurmountable lead. All right, last question. Last question. What does the acronym AIM mean? African Inland Missions, Adventures in Missions, Advances in Missions, Ambassadors in Missions. All of you will proudly wear this t-shirt in just a little bit. You signed up for it today. If you didn't sign up, make sure you talk to the people at the table before you go. Correct answer is Ambassadors in Missions. Did Natty somehow mess this up and lose? The podium, number 3, Matthias. Where's Matthias? Where's Matthias? Right there. Cash money. And the number 1 goes to, give it up to Natty. Wow. Incredible. Impressive even. Very good. Well, that's a little introduction about some of our trips. We're going to have you do this in a second. We're going to have the next picture on here. And it is a map of our stage. So let me explain this. So you kind of see how the stage goes at an angle here, and it goes straight, it goes at an angle. So if you are in Puebla, Mexico, you're right here on this side. If you are in Montana, Tok, Alaska is not here. If you're in Montana, it's right here. Kind of go to the next one. If you're going to the Baja, you're here. If you're going to the treetop, you're here. If you are in 48 hours, if you are Milwaukee, right here. If you're in Alaska, right here. El Salvador and New York City. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to dismiss you by groups. So if you're going to go, you have to come up here and you have to grab one of these bags. Okay, so if you're in El Salvador, come pick up your El Salvador bag. It's this one right here. Come pick that up. If you're in Puebla, go pick up the one on the end right here. This is the Puebla, right by the stair. So come get it and go back to your seat. All right, if you are going to New York City, come get your bag. That's right here. New York City, home per capita, the biggest in the world, in the United States. New York City. If you are going to 48 hours, why don't you come get your bag right here? 48 hours is right here. 48 hours. $48 is right here. Kate, why don't you jump up there and help him out? Look at that. That was confirmation. Sorry, you bring home the title. You had a good run to start. All right, if you are going to Montana, come on, grab one of these. Montana's right here. They're all the same. Montana's right here. Montana's right here. Michaela, you want to just help everybody? And there might be another. Okay, if you're going to Alaska, Alaska's right here. Come get Alaska. Alaska's right here. Do you want to jump up there and help them? Alaska's right here. All right, if you are going to the Baja, the home of General Vicente Guerrero, you're right here. Hey, and if there's still some left from your group, just leave them there. We'll track down who should be getting those. Okay, if you are going to Milwaukee, you're right here. Milwaukee. There you go, Ed. There you go. You want to be the person to hand them out? And if you're going to the treetop, come pick up yours right in this area, right here. Hey, and if we have, Jen, are you still here? Is it Constance? Hey, treetop people, where are you at?
We're right here.
Right here. Did somebody just sign up in the last, like, 2 days? Is she here? Yeah. Okay, this would be hers. We ran out of backpacks. It's just a matter of time. Hey, if you're a leader, if you're a youth pastor, and you have somebody that's not here, you can get the backpack that is from your group and make sure that they get it. Also, this is going to be videotaped, and we'll have a link on our website that they can watch this. We're going to let you explain about that with whatever. So we have a few extra from Montana. If you know, as a youth pastor, Jake or Miranda.
So is there a Montana?
Montana's right there. So, no, we just have it. We have someone on your trip that is actually supposed to be going to Alaska. I put her on your trip by accident. She asked me to change, and I thought I did, but I didn't. So we'll figure it out. Thank you. All right. So everybody here got a backpack, right? If you're going to Tanzania, you did not have a backpack, just so I don't know if we have any Tanzania people here or not. But we're going to go through and we're going to talk through kind of what is in the backpack. If you take the backpack and open it up a little bit, you're going to see this form. We want you to take out the folder. Take out the folder and just put it in your lap, and we're going to walk through what it looks like. The first thing I want you to look at is this watermark thing that looks like this. This is kind of our basis of what we're asking you to do, okay? So in the next, between now and the first trip, well, the first trip leaves in April. We have a few trips leaving in April, but most of them are leaving in June. There's a little over 100 days. It's starting about 110 days, going up to about 125 days that trips are leaving from right now. So we want you to kind of break these down into weeks. So everybody has this. It's on the screen. We're going to walk through what it is. We're asking you to be a part of this. In your backpack, there's going to be a book. It looks like this, the Watermark book. That's kind of the basis of what we're going to talk through a little bit today. But let me just walk through the first weeks 1 through 5. We want you to read the Watermark book. We want you to find a coach. What is a coach? A coach would be somebody that is going to help you stay accountable to this kind of a list. It could be your youth pastor, but I'd rather have it somebody in your church or your family you don't live with. If you want to find somebody that's kind of more experienced than you are in life, and especially in their Christian walk, we want you to find somebody that's probably, I would say, as old as your parent or around that age. And for me, my dad's 85. It's probably hard to find somebody older than my dad. So that doesn't really apply to me. But if you're a student or a college student or a young adult, find somebody that's older and more experienced so that you're going to ask them to help you stay accountable to what Watermark is all about. Your leaders are going to talk about that in your training time. So we want you to find a coach. We want you to go through the Bible Project, and we're going to watch one of those in just a little bit. We want you to go through the E100. We'll talk about that. We want you to do the prayer list. And our goal is devotions every day. Here's what it is. The Watermark book is a book based on just this concept. if I were to ask you this question, and this is rhetorical, you don't have to answer, what would you say are the biggest spiritual highlights in your life? I was youth pastor for 18 years, and I would say, without a doubt, everyone would say a few things. They'd either say camp was a spiritual highlight, maybe a retreat, maybe NYC was a spiritual highlight. A lot of them, if not most of them, would say going on a missions trip was one of my spiritual highlights. So we want you to have the greatest spiritual event, maybe up until this part of your life. And we want you to not just have it a 2-week or a 10-day or a 4-day event. We want it to become a lifestyle. Kind of the watermark idea is this. If you've ever been to the ocean, a lake, we have a small pontoon and we put it in the water. And you can see on our pontoons, you can see how low it's in the water because we live on the Mississippi and there's a kind of a grimy stain, you know what I'm talking about? That's kind of the watermark. That's where it's at. We can tell where it's at in the water the lowest because that's kind of where the stain starts. We'd say in your Christian walk, if we were to track where you're at going with Christ, it might be like NYC and then it'd be a camp experience. We want you to figure out, what can I do so that I can grow spiritually so that doesn't do this number? What can I do? And it's called habits. We want you to establish habits like reading your Bible every day, like praying every day, like just reading and learning about who God is and what he has for you. We want you to establish those habits so that you can start making that a habit. So when you go on the trip, it becomes something you've already done. So when you go on the trip, you're ready to be used by God versus going on the trip like you go to the first night at camp and they have an altar call and everyone rushes to the front because you know you got to get right with God. Let's get that out of the way ahead of time and let's start being ready to be used by God. That's what we want you to do. Watermark is a devotional written by former Minnesota AIM students that used to sit in these rooms and all across Minnesota, but mainly in one town in Minnesota. And these are stories, just devotionals about where you have been or where you're at or where they've been, where you're at. So that's something that we want you to go through and we want you to look at. Here's some other things that are in your backpack. We have the other books. There's some other books here that we're going to ask you to do. Draw the Circle. Everyone will get a copy of that from your team leader. That's back ordered. There's a fasting little pamphlet. We're going to ask you to do some fasting. Your leaders will talk about that. Also, there's this thing called the Live Dead Journal. And go to the next one if you can. The next one, or go to that QR code if you could, Andy. There's a QR code on here, and everyone has this in your backpack. And it's a digital copy. You can either scan that, or there's another way that you can go to our website, which show our website there there's a free download on that as well. You can go download that. We'd like you to read through that as well. Another thing in your backpack, you have this thing called the E100. We would love for you to read the Bible at least 100 times between now and when your trip happens in anywhere from 110 to 125 or 30 days. It's very cool. I've done this a couple times. I've read through this a few times. It's 50 of the top stories of the Old Testament, 50 of the top stories of the New Testament. It's great. You've heard them. Maybe you heard them in Sunday school or in youth group. But to read through all the stories from the beginning to the end of the Bible, it's a great thing. We'd love for you to accomplish that before you go on your trip. The Bible Project is another thing that we have, and you have this in your book or in your pamphlet. And how many of you have never seen the Bible Project videos? Raise your hand. How many of you have seen the Bible Project videos? Okay, so we're going to skip that because we don't have to show you what that is. What I'd love for you to do is I'd love for you to go through and just even check off as you watch these things. Everybody knows you guys watch more videos than you probably spend time studying on for school, okay? Everybody knows that. You watch videos and you watch between 7 and 14,000 TikToks a day. So I want to have you throw this in on your video watching. These range anywhere from a little under 4 minutes to a little bit over 10 minutes. It'd be a great accomplishment for you to watch the entire Bible explained between now and when you go on the trip. That's a challenge I want to throw out to you. We want you to establish habits so much that it just becomes something that is a part of every day. We have a student here that has been on some AIM trips in the past, and she's going to talk about her habits of how she has structured her devotional time with God, and just tell us a little about it. Give it up for my friend Courtney.
Hey guys, I'm Courtney, like Bobby said, and I've been sitting where you are quite a few times. I've been on 3 missions trips, and I'm a freshman at North Central right now. But my first encouragement to you is all of these things that Bobby was just talking about, do not get overwhelmed. They're just really great tools. Like watching the Bible Project videos is such a cool way just to learn more about the Bible if you're confused. So just to use all of these things as tools is really cool. But some of my devotional habits right now, something that I would also encourage you to do is I've been doing a Bible plan with some of my friends on the Bible app, and we do it every day, and then we can comment and write about like what God is speaking to us. So if you want to keep yourself more accountable, that's really cool because you can see what your friends are thinking about the Bible plan or what you're thinking. So that's one way. Another thing that I do throughout the day is honestly just listening to worship music because worship music is so powerful. Just like you were worshiping out in the other service today. That's just one really cool way that you can connect with God. So I encourage you, listen to worship music and to pray for what's on your heart and to pray for other people is important. To reach out to other people, ask what they're praying for. I don't remember where I heard it, but it was, if all your prayers were answered today, would it change your life or someone else's life? So to be praying for other people is really important. That's another way you can connect with God. And also reading your Bible, but you've probably heard that one a lot, so just say that. But yeah.
So stay up here if you could. Hey, I need Riley and James and Alex to come up here, and Noah. We need you to hand these out, guys. Last year, you guys probably don't know this unless you follow our Instagram account, which you should. We have an Instagram on our screen here. I'll just give those there. Everybody gets one of these. We have an Instagram. Follow us on Minnesota AIM if you would. Last year, we had this AIM scholarship. Andy, put that up there if you would. And we have a AIM scholarship winner, and Courtney applied for this. And what it is, it's sponsored by Youth Alive and AIM. And if you're doing something on your campus, like a campus Bible study or a prayer group or FCA or Catalyst or whatever it be, we want you to look on that. It's the same sheet where we have the free download that you can download on the top, explains what the scholarship is about. So Courtney wrote about what she did last year. So tell us a little bit about your campus ministry.
Yeah. So I was involved with our campus ministry or Bible study at school all through 6th through 12th grade. And so I basically just wrote about what I helped out in, what I did with that. So I definitely encourage you to apply for the scholarship because I didn't think I could win, and then you win it and you're like, oh, that will definitely help me pay for my trip because like you know, these trips are not cheap, but I was praying and I really felt like I was supposed to go on the trip. So I thought I should apply for the scholarship, and that's definitely one way that God showed up to me through that. Yeah.
So would you guys give it up and congratulate her for winning the scholarship? Thank you. So we want you guys to win that. It's just $300. Maybe your trip costs $300. I don't know. But $300 is not just a little bit. That's a lot of money. But we want you guys to be involved in the campus ministry. So look at that informational sheet that's in your backpack. And we want you to see kind of what's required of that. And if you would apply for that after you're actually doing something in your campus, that'd be awesome. And if you want to know more about campus ministry, you can talk with me, or you can talk with Kelly Patrick, or you can talk with Richard Baker about that. So I have a friend. He's going to come up here. He was in the lead for part of the Kahoot. And he is no longer one of us. He's no longer a youth pastor. He is now a senior pastor, and I've asked Pastor Sam to come talk a little bit about what to expect on an AIM trip and tell us a little bit about what God kind of did through that.
Thanks, Bobby. Man, it's come a long way. My very first AIM trip was in 1996 with this guy. And we got to go to an awesome place called the Bahamas and reach people for Jesus. And everyone needs Jesus, right? So Bahamas not a bad place. Well, hey, you guys are starting this process. You prayed about this. Your youth pastor or your parent or someone in your church, or you come across this thing online and you prayed, you said, I need to go on this. So you're starting right now. I want you to think about, where do you want to be at the end of your trip? It all starts, and all the stuff that Bobby's talking about, it's not just stuff to do, okay? It's going to make you closer to Jesus. If I'm not closer to Jesus through this whole process, then why are we going? If we don't have an opportunity to go and to reach people and to love people, God wants to change you in this entire process. So start with that end in mind. What do you want to be like at the end of your trip? But then your trip doesn't end there. There's more to do after that too. Courtney talked about reaching her campus. As a former youth pastor, it's fun for me to look across the room. I see students and I see young adults who went on trips with me over the years. And as a youth pastor, one of my goals was to see every single student in my ministry, in our ministry, go on an AIM trip at least one time. At least one time in their trip. And AIM impacted our students. Kids on our trips were called into ministry. We saw God do powerful things year after year. I have a bucket list personally of sharing my faith on every continent. I got one left. Now, Antarctica needs Jesus, but I don't put that on there. But someday, maybe an AIM trip, I'll lead to Australia or something. Who knows what's going to happen? But hey, one of the things you're going to do on this trip is you're going to write these things called expectation letters. And we've done this every year. Bobby laid this out for me, laid out the plan, and I picked it up. We've used it on our training trips. And you're going to sit down at one of your meetings, and you're going to write down and say, God, what are you going to do through me? And you're going to have some questions, and you're going to begin to dream. And my challenge with you in this is to be as specific as you possibly can. Don't be like, I want God to show up. I want there to be good food. I hope I maybe get married. I hope, whatever you're going to do. Who knows? True love waits, right? Be specific. Trust God to do something amazing on this. And this last trip, we went to Phoenix, and we wrote letters. And we saw God do some really cool stuff. We had one night in our hotel room where each night we kind of break off and we pray and we talk about our night. We broke off with guys, and God just dropped in that room. And we prayed together as guys for 2.5 hours in that hotel room. And I saw stuff, honestly, I hadn't seen since I was in high school. Like God's presence showing up. It was powerful. Last day, we get to the end of our trip. We opened up our letters, and we're sitting there and we're talking, and kids are like, oh, man, God did this, or oh, yeah, God did that, and they're sharing this. In the meantime, there's this guy kind of watching us, and he keeps coming closer and closer. And as the trip dad, I'm a real dad too, I'm kind of watching him like, why is this guy creeping by us, right? But he sits down with us, and all of a sudden he gets up to leave, and I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? Why are you here? Why are you with us? And he goes, I don't know. Because my name's Ray, and I'm from St. Louis, and I was supposed to be with my girl, but we fought, and I don't know why I'm here. And our team looks at each other, and we're like, well, we know why you're here. So we got to pray with him, and we got to talk to him, and then he began to step away, and I just pulled him aside and said, Ray, where are you at with Jesus? Do you know the Lord? And he said, no. And so I got to pray with him right there to accept the Lord in that spot. God brought a guy from St. Louis to meet a team in Minnesota in Phoenix, Arizona. So this happens. We're like fired up. Pastor Chris was there with us. It was amazing. And so then like casually, Ray goes off. I get his contact info. We're finishing up reading the letters. And this girl goes, that's the last thing I needed for God to do everything on that I wrote down on my list. And we're like, no way. You just made that up. That's crazy. Like, she's no, for real. God, you don't know what God's going to do. So I want you guys to take this and begin to dream in what God can do. You don't know. It makes me really happy to see kids that I had the privilege of investing in. They're still serving Jesus. It's one of the greatest things. As youth pastors, I'm proud of you guys for leading your students and taking those steps and putting this in front of them. Guys, hold it in front of them. Love on them. You don't know what could happen. But I guarantee you, if we put the effort in, you'll get what you put into it. And God's pretty gracious. He'll give you even more. Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you, Pastor Sam. Yeah, expectation letter. You're all going to write that, and you're just going to, and after a time of prayer, it's just going to be a list of questions. What are you asking God to do? And you're going to, instead of thinking about it and just praying about it, you're going to write it down. And I've been on many trips where when we fill it out in February or March, and we'll put it in an envelope, we'll sign our name, we'll seal it, and we'll give it to our leader, and then 3 or 4 months later, we'll open it up. And you will be absolutely amazed of what you wrote, because that's what God is going to do in your life. So the question is, what are you expecting God to do? That's why we want you guys to be ready. We want you to be ready spiritually. We want to have you clean your life out before you go so that when you get there, you're ready to be used. You're ready to pray for people and be healed. Where's Pastor Tyler? Pastor Tyler is going to come up and he's going to just talk about team training, and then just tell us briefly. I know if you know Tyler, briefly is an important word. Wow. Ouch, sorry. Wow. Just tell us a little bit about Ireland, because some of you have heard this, but this is just crazy about expectations. Expecting God to work, and this is what happens.
Awesome. So I get to talk to you about meetings, which is oh so exciting, right? Like that's what you guys all got. You signed up to go to more meetings, right? Right? Okay, cool. No, but hey, you have the opportunity to have a few team meetings. So you're going to meet with your team a couple times, 2, 3, 4 times, depending on your team, over the next few months. And this is a really awesome time, and I want to kind of build your expectation for that. So at these meetings, what you're going to be doing is, I think, kind of working on four different things. You're going to be working on building team unity. You're going to be team building. You are going to be doing spiritual prep, and you are going to be doing practical practice, right? Because we don't want to just send you out on the mission field and be like, hey, let's learn as we go. Nope, we want to be prepared as we do that. So what will happen is you guys will have the opportunity to get together a few times with your team. Now, for some of these trips, your whole team might just be your church, okay? But for a lot of these trips, there's a mixture of different teams, like different churches that are working together. So when you come together, this is your chance to meet each other, to start to develop relationships, to get to know the people that you are going to have to spend so many hours traveling with and like sharing hotel rooms with or sleeping on church floors with, right? And this is your opportunity to get to know each other and start to develop friendships and build that unity with one another so that you can be connected as you go. And also, too, you'll be doing some team building activities. So, you might have some more cahoots. You might have opportunities to just laugh together and grow together as a team and have a good time getting to know one another, and also, too, learning how to work together. Right, so as we have these team meetings and we're coming together, and we're doing our prep work and things like that, it's teaching you how to work together so that when you get out on the field and out doing your actual trips, it's not like you're trying to figure it out for the first time. And then also, too, a big part of these meetings is spiritual preparation for the trip. So you're going to be doing things like writing the expectation letter that Sam and Bobby talked about, or doing a prayer practices where you're either practicing conversational prayer, which is something you'll learn, or the hour of prayer that changes the world, right? And updating each other on discipleship and where you're at with all the things that we're supposed to be doing as we prep for this trip. This is an opportunity to come together as the family of God and get the spiritual support that you need, right? You can't, I just know this. In Christianity, we grow more in community. Right? So when we come together and you're prepping spiritually for this, if you are doing that in the context of Christian community, that's going to bring more value to you. And then lastly, you'll be doing a lot of practical practice. You'll be learning about the culture. You'll be learning about safety. You'll be learning about how not to get deported from India on your way to going because you said something dumb in customs, right? You'll be learning how to do the ministry that you're going to be going. You're going to be learning how to talk over the procedures and learn things like what city are we actually going to and things of that nature. And so that's going to be your team meetings. You're going to have a few times to do that, and it's going to be really exciting. And as well, he wanted me to talk about Ireland. I'll share this really quick. We went to Ireland back in 2019, and it was a trip that really stretched us because we were doing street ministry where we were praying for healing for strangers on the street. Okay, outside of comfort zone obliterated, right? But I'll say this, when you show up and you say, God, I'm going to give you my best and I'm going to trust you, he does incredible things. We saw over 40 miraculous healings, including 3 legs growing out where one was shorter than the other. We saw people's backs get healed. We saw people's knees get healed. We saw God do incredible things and people come to find and follow Jesus, and it was an awesome, awesome time. So as you go, believe God for big things because he is going to work in you and through you if you give him the opportunity.
One more thing here. You got back from the trip and you just didn't leave it behind. Something happened. This is incredible. The Wednesday night you got back.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. You always want me to tell that, and I forget. So we came back, and we were just like, you ever come back from like a camp or something? You're just fired up. So we're like, we're just gonna have a healing service, right? So we had a healing service at youth, and we kind of talked about this stuff and called some people up. And one of the students that came up, his name was Kyle. He doesn't go to our youth group anymore, but he's serving the Lord now, which is awesome. But he was legally blind in his left eye. So we prayed for him. And afterwards, I said, hey, did you feel anything? He's like, I didn't really feel anything. And he covered up his right eye, and he goes, oh, my gosh, I can read my bracelet that I'm wearing. He had been legally blind in his left eye, and God healed him after that. And so that showed us that it's not just on the mission trip. Like, the mission trip is an opportunity. It's a catalyst to increase your faith so that you can come build God's kingdom everywhere, because it's the same God in Ireland is in Big Lake, Minnesota, and everywhere you're going to go. So that was a cool story that happened after.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. We want you to be ready to be used by God when you go. So all these things are just not busy work, which you hate that when teachers do that. I hated that. But trust me, this is not busy work. This is you going into training, prepping so that you're ready to do that. Pray for somebody, and they're instantly healed from blindness. That's pretty cool. I think that would probably build your faith. And you can do this on a missions trip, but when you get back home, it doesn't have to end. This isn't just done when you come home on a flight. This is a new way of living. That's what we want you to experience. We're talking about reading your Bible. We want to talk about prayer. In your book, or in your folder, you have this thing that looks like this. And this is a prayer guide. What we want you to do is we want you to fill this out, and we talked about finding the coach. We'd love for you to hand this to the coach and ask them, make a copy, and say, would you pray this with me? And here's what it is. We want you to pray every single day for something, one thing in your life that you could use prayer for. We want you to pray every day for one person in your school that could stand to have some prayer. And then we want you to pray for one thing in the world that could be prayed for. And even if it's literally 30 seconds for each one of those things, and you don't currently pray, and you pray for 90 seconds, your life is going to change. I guarantee it. Your spiritual life will change if you consistently start to do that. And this is just a simple tool. There's no month on it. Just every first, we start praying for the things on the first. Today is the 20th, and we'll pray for the things that are on the 20th. 21st, we'll start praying for the 21st. We want you to establish just a habit of prayer by doing that. We talked about this. One of the things, this is a fasting pamphlet. I used to do a really long book, and I decided this is probably a little bit better book than even a short book. So this is a book that you can read in a very short time. It's just about fasting. We're going to ask you to do that during and prep for this. Your leader will talk to you about that. In your pamphlet, there's also some bookmarks, and those aren't really for you. There are some little notepads that you see in there. Those aren't necessarily for you. Those are for somebody that you're asking to pray with you. All of you have this thing. It's just a baton. It could be metal, it could be plastic, it could be a padded baton, a foam baton like this. What we want you to do is we want you to find somebody, could be that coach, could be somebody as old as your parent or older. We would ask you to find somebody and hand this to them and say, would you be the person that covers me in prayer for this trip? I have a story. I've told it many times. I'll tell it one more time. I have a friend. His name is Lyle. Lyle worked in the National Guard. He's in Minnesota. He's in Little Falls, Minnesota. He was a guy in our church, and I was going on a missions trip with a basketball team to the country of Costa Rica. And we came up with this idea, and we had it for the very first time. There was a yellow track baton. And I asked him, I said, Lyle, would you be willing to pray for me and cover me in prayer? It's kind of like I'm handing this off. As I hand this off to Pastor Pam, I would say, would you be willing to pray? And I handed it to him, and he said, no. I was like, okay. He said, I have to go ask my wife, ask me next week. The next week I came back and I said, well, what do you think, Lyle? And he said, well, you got to ask me again. So I said, okay, okay, Lyle, would you promise to pray for me, cover me in prayer and our team as we get ready to go on a basketball trip, on an AIM trip to Costa Rica? And I handed it to him, and he said, yes. And he took it. And I thought he was praying for me. After the trip, and we were there at his house later on, you go downstairs every morning, he gets a cup of coffee, and he reads the paper, turns on the news. As he's a retired guy, that's kind of what they do. And he starts reading, and right above his recliner on the wall, you'll see a yellow baton. And he told me this a couple years ago. He said, you know, every time I see that baton, I still pray for you. That was 2013. Every morning, Lyle has a cup of coffee. Every morning, he turns on the news. Every morning, he sees my baton. Who do you think he prays for? Me. That can be your story. Find somebody in your church that you know knows how to get a hold of God. And when you're in a difficult situation on a name trip, just to know that someone's got your back in prayer changes how you approach a situation. That's something we want you to do. Everybody has that baton in your backpack. We want you to go through that. This is mentioned a little bit earlier too. This is just this form that looks like this. This is something from the book called The Hour That Changes the World. You're going to go through this in your first training time. And there's a guy by the name of Dick Eastman. He's a great author, a great prayer warrior that has devised this plan. Here's what it is. This is divided into 12 things. There's worship, confession, scripture reading, waiting, intercession, petition, thanksgiving, team, unity, key scriptures, what God is saying, and praise. He wants you to pray for this. It comes from the book called An Hour That Changes the World. It's 12 5-minute segments that we want you to pray for, and you're going to do this in your first training session. And I did this 3 weeks ago. We had one from a trip just called the Youth Alive School Tour. If you feel like God has called you to be a school like assembly speaker, come on tour with us with Youth Alive. I was off stage in a town up north, and I can't remember which town it was, but I had my form from the Youth Alive School Tour, and off stage, as Terrence Talley was on stage and a band called Wonder State was playing, I was off stage praying through this. I got to tell you, I've never done it on location in a public school before. I love this. I set my timer on my phone, and then when I got to the next 5 minutes, I went to the next thing. I got to tell you, I've never done this on a trip before. I think going into a school on a school tours, a missions trip, I got to tell you, this changed how I viewed this piece of paper. It was awesome. It was awesome. And we want you guys to just think about, how do I pray? Man, there's 12 things that you can pray through and learn how to connect with God. We want you to do that. So there's a lot of things we want you to do, and prayer is such a huge thing. And if we could all summarize, what are we going to do prepping for our trip? Everything else we've said would not be as important as prayer. And here's what we want you to do. We want you to rally prayer support. We talked about the baton. That's kind of the one core prayer person. We want you to communicate with a few prayer partners, kind of the crowd, and that's what the notebook, or that's what the bookmarks are, and the little sticky notepads that you have on are there. That's what the baton is for, to remind people to pray. Because when prayer happens, things happen, and God moves, and you need to be ready when God moves. Here's what I want you to do. Everyone has one of these in your backpack, correct? You may have two, and here's the reason. If you have two, you have one for your backpack. You have one for your luggage that you're going to be bringing with you if you're taking a flight. If you're going anywhere but 48 hours, Treetop, Milwaukee, you're going to be flying somewhere. So you each have one of these. Here's what I want you to do. Take this out. Rip it open like this. Use your teeth if you want to. Rip it open. And everybody has a journal, correct? Guess what? There's a pen on the journal. I want you to take out the pen right now, and we want you to open it up. There's a little slip of paper. We want you to take that out if you can. You may need to ask your neighbor that has fingernails to help you do this. And it says name, address, city, state, zip, phone, email. Don't do anything yet. Here's what I want you to do. We want you to do this. We want you to write your name, first and last name. We want you to write your cell phone number and your email address. Don't write your address. Okay? Your name, your cell phone number, your email address, but don't write your address. Is that okay? Does everybody understand? I want you to write it out, and then you have a little piece that looks like this. I want you to put it on. I want you to put it on your backpack right now before we move on. Andy, can we have some working music? We're going to give you about a minute and a half here to do that because inevitably someone's going to leave their backpack and we don't know whose it is. That's a pretty nice backpack. So put your name, your phone number, and your email address on there if you would. Your name, your phone number, your cell phone number. If you don't have a cell phone, put your parents' cell phone number and your email address. All of you have an email because you probably go to school. Most of you have an email address. Put it on there. Okay, we'll give you a little bit more. We want your name, your phone number, and your email address. And then use that little lanyard and put that on your backpack right now. You can put it on a zipper, you can put on a shoulder strap, you can put on the loop on the top. Wherever you want, McQuaid, just put it on there. Here we're going to have another promo. McQuaid, stand up if you would. McQuaid, stand up. Look at this fine trucker hat. These are available for just $10 over in the church lobby, which are going to be there in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Also available is the established 1977 shirts. I will just give you another second. We are going to just move on here and just finish this and make sure you put it on your backpack right now or really soon. Yes. Yep. All right, hey, we're going to move on here because we want to get you out of here on time. You'll see this little slip of paper on your in your notebook or your folder. Here's what it looks like. You'll see it on the screen. It just says AIM luggage. You'd say, why do I need to do this? Here, let me tell you a story. We had a girl that left from our youth group. She went on an AIM trip, or she went on a missions trip. And she went to the island of Madagascar. Does everybody know where that's at? How many of you have never seen those movies? Well, you need to because those are awesome. She went to Madagascar. She had a backpack and she had a bag that she checked. She was going there for 2.5 months. She was going there for, I think, 11 weeks. She got to Madagascar and she had her backpack and she had her clothes she was wearing. She had one change of clothes and they lost her luggage. And she couldn't remember what was in there. And they kept checking, it didn't arrive. Kept checking, didn't arrive. Kept checking, didn't arrive. Kept checking, didn't arrive. Kept checking, didn't arrive. The bag showed up I want to say, maybe I'm not remembering this right, I want to say the bag showed up week 7 or 8. So she wore a pair of clothes, underclothes, the same every other day for only about, I don't know, 10 weeks or so. We don't want that to be your story, but luggage does get lost. And here's what we want you to do. We want you to fill out this on your luggage before you go. We want you to put it on your luggage with your bag open. And we want you to picture with your phone so that, and you're going to bring this on your phone with you. And if your luggage ever gets lost, trust me, it is so much easier if you have a list ahead of time versus standing at the lost luggage counter at the airport being ticked off. Trust me, that is not a fun place to be. And we've had people there before. So we want you to make sure that you do that ahead of time. Hey, we are going to just talk about insurance. Isn't that a super fun topic, insurance? I have a picture of a friend. Here's what happened on a name trip. This is a little thing called a contusion. Everyone say contusion. I'm lying. That is a major, major battle scar. He just, not a big deal, just hit a telephone pole. He wasn't on his motorcycle. He was running. Okay, he was running, and he did the old cartoon where they went whoop, 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 and his feet went out, and he bent himself around a telephone pole. Somehow, I think Chris was even, you're there, you brought him to the hospital. I'm in El Salvador, and I get this text from Chris, I think you texted me, or maybe it was Cam. And he said, well, we had this little incident at the hospital, or maybe even called me. And I just asked for a picture, and they sent me this picture as I was in El Salvador. And I thought, oh my goodness, he has ruptured a kidney, or he's ruptured a liver. Nothing happened. But that looks pretty bad, doesn't it? In the middle of the night, Cam, one of the youth pastors in Minnesota, started to cry a little bit. No, he started to say, I think this might be worse than I think. And they took this picture, and I was like, duh, yeah, that's worse than you think. So of all things, they thought he may have internal bleeding. Who would have thought that, right? He goes to the hospital. He has x-rays. He has like a CAT scan. He has blood work. He has this whole array of things. And praise God, nothing happened. Just a really bad picture and an awesome picture for me to show. Now, what does this have to do with insurance? It has a lot, because he was somebody that had a type of insurance, and he had to pay a little bit more than the type of insurance. I know I'm not speaking to a lot of insurance holders in this room, but there are things called primary coverage and secondary coverage. So he submitted this to his primary insurance, and they covered a portion. And he had this portion of unpaid, which was over $1,100 or $1,200 that was not covered by insurance, that he would have had to pay out of his own pocket. We have trip insurance if you're going to 48 hours for a couple of days, or going to Tanzania, all the way in Africa, that has the leading, okay, I won't even say about people dying by a lion. Bad example. Other places we go, we have insurance that's going to cover whatever. So your parents may ask this, and these are the things that we have. Faith Ventures, Mission Assure, the two different types of insurance. Everybody that goes on a trip with AIM has trip insurance that covers whatever medical things are not covered. So we have little things every year, clinic runs, cuts on their fingers, cuts on their feet, to a lot more major things. And since I've been doing AIM, we've never had an AIM claim that has been turned down. So whatever happens, everything has been covered. But there's that one thing about prayer. Yeah, that's really good to have that too. I think that's why Cam didn't maybe have internal bleeding, because I think people are covering him in prayer. But we have you covered in insurance. It's up to you to find the people that cover you in prayer, and that's a terrible example. But anyways, we're going to move on. I have another friend of mine. I have a lot of friends, and I want to have one of my friends. His name is Pastor James. And Pastor James is going to come up and talk to us about a little bit about culture and what it is, kind of going on a name trip, what is that? And then you got to tell us the cool family dynamic, kind of an answer to prayer that's happening at the end of your story.
Right. Hey, everybody. Somebody say, I'm going out on a boat on the lake. That's how you know you're from Minnesota, if you can say that correctly. We're going out on a boat on the lake. There are certain things as we go from Minnesota that we take with us that we just can't help. We are who we are. How many of you know you're awesome? And you're going to, as you meet with your team, you're going to decide what ministry looks like for your trip and how you're going to do things. And some of you are musicians, some of you are athletes, some of you can act or play games or do different things. And so you're going to figure out as a team what you do really well together. And I just want you to know that as we go, we're not going as the superstars on our trips. We're going as representatives of Jesus Christ. I don't know if you realize this, but the Bible says that we have this treasure hidden in earthen vessels. God has hidden those things inside of us. And sometimes when our culture, when our Minnesota culture rubs up against other cultures, interacts with them, and we don't know exactly all the time what we're doing. So I encourage you, I just want to give you some encouragement to really be self-aware. And to not go into a situation thinking that you've got it all together. How many of you don't know that you've got it all together right now? You just know that you have life figured out. And, okay, it's good to go humble into a situation like this. It's good to go humbly into a place. That's what Jesus did, didn't he? He came as a humble servant. And we're not going as rock stars and going as people. You have to be aware as we go into other cultures that maybe what we do or we say might have a different meaning where we go. And if you ever go to Ireland or you go to England or somewhere like that, you'll find out really quickly that when you say I was goofing off, it means something completely different than when you're in Minnesota. And when I was in Mexico, I learned really, really quick that especially when you're dealing with little kids or other people, you don't go like this to somebody. That's really a nasty gesture. That means I want to have sex with you. So if you're going to a Mexican, or Latin America in general, don't do this. Go like this. Or go like that. Be aware of who you are. Be aware of what that you are an amazing person with Jesus inside. And what we do on the outside is really something that we can be humble about and we can change. You can do anything for a week. You can adjust who you are and how you express yourself for a week. I was in, our team is going to Mexico this time, and this trip I've been on a bunch of times. And my first time that was there, I realized one of the most impacting exports of Minnesota in Latin culture isn't snow. It isn't Vikings apparel. It's not the game of hockey. It's the guy that I was out with said he stopped on the street and he went and got a bag from a kid, and a kid was just sitting on the sidewalk, and the whole line of kids had bags, and they were sniffing these bags. They were actually sniffing glue. And he went to the kid that they were all getting it from, and he pulled this jar from this guy, and he said, "Look," and it said, H.B. Fuller Company, Vadnais Heights, Minnesota. One of the greatest addicting chemicals in Latin America is glue that's made just like 10 minutes from our church. And so I just keep thinking, God, help us to take something with us that is going to break the power of addiction, that is really going to leave an impact on the people that are around us, that we could live out what Paul wrote in Colossians chapter 1, verse 27. To them God willed to make known what are the riches of the glory of this mystery among the Gentiles, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. It's Christ in you that's the hope of glory. You are actually not the hope of glory. You're the vehicle that the hope is being delivered to. and the people that you're going to minister to for that week. You're going to have an awesome time. You're going to have so much fun. You're going to express yourself, and you're going to just be who you are. But there are going to be a few things along the way. I encourage you to talk to people that have been to your destination before and say, hey, what are some things that are going to increase my impact and decrease just my negative impact? John the Baptist, when he was on the earth, he announced this, that Jesus must increase and I must decrease. So we have to have this attitude of decreasing in order for Jesus to increase. Do some research about the culture that you're going to. Ask people that have been there before. Talk as a team and say, what are some things that we can do to increase the kingdom impact and lessen my personal effect on the people around us? And I think you're going to make some really great friends along the way as well. They're going to appreciate you. They're going to love you. But maybe there are a couple things that we don't say a few words. We don't do a couple hand gestures. Maybe we can do this for a week, right? It feels kind of weird to do that, but it blesses people that you're going to go and see. Bobby. Oh, my family. Thank you for the class already. Lisa and I, in April, will have been married for 25 years. Yeah. And one of our dreams all that time as we started having kids is that we would go on a mission trip as a family. So this year for our 25th anniversary, Lisa and me and Robbie, Charlie, and Lily all get to go on the same mission trip together. Isn't that cool? So that's super fun. Bobby, thank you for helping that happen. It's an amazing thing, and we're excited to go as a family and do this together.
Thank you, Pastor James. Hey, we just have a few more things we want to cover, and then we're going to have you split up into your groups so you can meet your team leader and the other people that are going on the team. Hey, just a couple other things. There's this thing called COVID. Has anyone heard of that? We have this COVID policy. You know, how many of you have vaccines? Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to ask that. I don't care. Here we have a policy when it comes to vaccines. We have a policy when it comes to COVID. Here's my official stance. I have no stance. This is not going to be any kind of divide the house on our opinions. We're not going to talk about it on our trips. We're not going to have opinions. We're not going to have fights. We're going to represent Jesus. Sound good? And if a trip says you have to have a vaccine to go, which on our current list of trips, there's nothing that requires that. We don't have to do that. If there's something happens that you need to have a vaccine to go on that particular AIM trip, you need a vaccine. To come back into the country, if you're flying, you will have to have a negative COVID test to enter the United States. If you do not, there are some things that we have, trip insurance that we talked about, just called trip interruption insurance, which means that there's money set aside that you will be staying in the country with an adult at an approved, safe location until you can have a negative test to fly back in the United States. So we don't have any strict things. You have to be against it. You have to be boycotting. No, we're representing Jesus, and what we have to do that's mandated, we're going to do, that's it. Understand? So everybody nod your head if you say, I'm not going to make COVID and vaccines an issue. Nod your head very emphatically. Awesome. Now let's honor that. Because for some reason, that's so divisive in the body of Christ, and it's not going to be a part of AIM. Money. Let's talk about money. Unfortunately, there is money required to go on a missions trip. You probably have already figured that one out, right? So here's some things. Please make note of the time of the payments. All of you have this, and we're going to cover this in just a little bit. Your next payment is March 11th. Your final payment is May 6th. We want you to hit those deadlines by the final payments due May 6th. The last thing is very important. You will not go on a missions trip, on an AIM trip, unless you pay for it. Everyone say, duh. Okay, you're not going to go on a trip unless you pay for it, so we need to hold you to that. So we want you to turn in the money to your youth leader, your youth pastor, the church administrator, however you're going to do that as a group. We want you to pay those things. Make sure you're on time. For deadlines, here's what it is. If you miss a deadline, there's a grace. If you miss 2 deadlines, you're probably not going to go. Because if you miss a deadline and the trip is, say, $2,000 and each of the 3 payments are $600, you miss one, you're $600 behind. You miss 2, you're $1,200 behind. That doesn't really give me a lot of confidence that you're going to raise the rest. So that's just going to be, does everybody kind of understand that? You're all pretty smart. You kind of get that. So we want you to do that. Please talk with me, leaders, individuals. If you're not connected to a church and you're struggling with those things with deadlines, please talk with me. You can find my information on our website, or I can give it to you. It's not a big deal. So just kind of know that is going on. Just the last thing really is this. We want to go through this really quick. All of you got that. This is kind of the format that we just talked about without you guys looking at it. So everybody take this out if you would. And we're just going to talk through a few things here, okay? On the front, it just lists the trips that we already talked about with the COOT. All the trips were represented with some questions. The payment schedule, January 21st, was the first one. Trust you made that. Second was March 11th. The final is May 6th. If you're going on an international trip, if you're crossing a border, you need a passport. 2 copies should be submitted to your youth leader or sent to the district office by that next deadline. Inside Watermark Discipleship, we talked about that. That's this one right here. The week 1 through 5, what we're doing, week 6 through 10, week 10 through 15, those are the things that we want to have you know. So those are the things that are there. The Watermark book, finding a coach, a revolving prayer list, developing your story. We'll talk about that in your individual groups. Drawing the circle, praying, going through the hour that changes the world. All the things we talked about are listed here. The middle page, rallying prayer support, we talked about that with the baton. Insurance, we spent a lot of time on that. Tyler covered the training sessions. Pastor Sam talked about starting with the end in mind. Courtney did a great job talking about her habits of devotions and also the Youth Alive Scholarship. In the back, turn the page like this, understanding culture. Pastor James did a great job with that. One of the things we did not cover, we talked about trip money, but spending money. $75 to $100, you can buy a lot of junk anywhere you go in the world for $75 to $100. One of the things, only bring 10s and 20s. Don't bring 50s or 100s or $2 bills. How many of you have ever seen a $2 bill? Okay, good. Don't bring it, because another country will have no idea what that looks like. It looks like fake money to them. It's very important that on the money, that there's no rips, there's nothing written like where'sgeorge.com, or you can track where. Can't have anything. If there's any damage on the bill, you will not get it exchanged. So make sure it's very clean, crisp money, and we'll provide a safe place for exchange. Luggage, the only thing you can bring in your AIM trip is the backpack. I'm kidding. We want you to bring luggage, but it can only be 50 pounds. There's this thing called linear inches, which means like long, high, wide. On the airlines, and they're very strict at this, 61 inches. So it could be length of like 30 inches, width would be 14 inches, that would be 44 inches, and high, if it's 12 inches, that would be 56 inches. That's under the 61 inches. Just go on delta.com, baggage information, you'll find that. So we want you to put that extra name tag that you put. If you're flying, that goes on your AIM bag. Passport, you have to have passport to leave the country. It has to have 6 months from the day you get back on your trip. Domestic, if you're flying, you have to have some kind of an ID. I'm curious, how many of you do not have your driver's license yet? Raise your hand. Okay, put your hands down. How many of you have like a school ID with a picture on it? Okay, that's going to work most of the time, but you're probably also going to bring like a birth certificate, and we'll talk to each leader about that. But you'll have to have some kind of proof to get on a flight. It just makes it a lot easier. The very back page, the last thing we're going to talk about is this, a packing list. Just look through the packing list. There's just things that we want you to bring. Those are just common sense things. Some of your trips have a packing list specific for the location you're going. And on the bottom, we just want everybody to have a med kit with some things so that you have a chance to just little med things that may come up. So here's what we're going to do. we're going to go through this. We're going to go through this list. If you're going to Treetop, and if you're going to New York City, stand up if you would. If you're going to those two places, come up here. Pastor Tyler's going to talk to you. Okay. If you're going to Alaska, we want you to. Where's Bell? Bell, go up by Bell. If you're going to Alaska, go right there. If you're going to 48 Hours, go back in the corner back there with Pastor Sam. If you're going to come over up on stage here, if you're going to Puebla, meet Pastor James and McQuaid, and over here, Robbie, meet you guys over there. If you're going to the Baja with Cedar Valley, just meet right here by Nick and the champion Natty. If you're going to the Baja with Foley, you stay right here. If you're going to Milwaukee, stand up if you would. That's Pastor Riley. Go find Pastor Riley. If you're going to El Salvador, go to Levi up there. Pastor Levi is holding his hand up. If you're going to Montana with Pastor Jake, stand up if you would. There's Pastor Jake talk. If you're going with Pastor Miranda, stand up over there. And we want you to go find your leader and introduce yourselves. And if you need to exchange information, you can do that. So we're going to give you really 5 minutes, and then we're all going to walk over and do that. Hey, one last thing. Before you guys go, we're going to tell you when you have to go. Why don't you go back to your seat, get all the garbage that you have underneath your seat, and throw it on the way out. So meet and talk amongst yourselves. Thanks. Andy, turn on some low music. There's one over there too. This one is hers. There's one over on the other side. So, but this is Riley's I was using. I didn't feel like I lost a lot of. Yeah, do you have the, well, let's go look at the list and see who hasn't checked in. We're going to have you guys take off in about 1 minute. I feel like a bad guy, but you have to move on over to the other location. We have one final session. Guys, I'm so excited. What's going to happen on AIM? Thanks for coming, guys. All right, guys, head on over. And have I mentioned that we have AIM trucker hats and retro shirts? That is a falsehood. That is a falsehood. This week, I will let you know. I'm avoiding all. I don't. Well, she keeps asking me the same question.